Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Sean Carey, and I'm with,
Dr. Bill Moss.
and we're with the Evolving Practice Podcast. And we're very excited because we're interviewing my good friend and colleague, Dr. Jason Ratke. Dr. Jason and I, we've known each other, I was thinking today, for probably like 16 years. I think we met when we were about 23. So that puts us 16 years ago.
Well, you were 23, but you're a little bit younger than me. I think I was 25, 26.
Okay. Yeah, but I mean, we go back quite a ways now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Totally different life, totally different thought processes and understandings. And we met when we were starting chiropractic school together in Dallas, Texas. So Dr. Jason's in California, Fresno, California, right?
Yeah, we're in Clovis, but it's a little suburb of Fresno. Basically, same thing. Yeah. Not a lot of people know Fresno or know Clovis, so we always say Fresno.
It's just like Dallas, Texas, I bet.
Oh yeah. Also, when you're from Carrollton, they're like,
yeah.
Oh, I'm from Dallas,
Yeah.
Or Frisco. Oh, I'm from Frisco, Texas. Like people are like, no.
Clovis. Yeah, and we go back quite a long ways, and we've gone to see each other through many different levels of transformation and different, just pretty much from just starting our healing journey. Like you had, your dad's a chiropractor, so you got exposed to it a lot more than I did as I was starting chiropractic school. So you had a lot more background. For me, it was like a lot of those ahas at the very beginning when we first met. I was learning all sorts of stuff. And since time has gone on, the years have passed, we've been in different chiropractic groups together, of course, and then we've gone doing the same work as far as energy healing in the Modern Mystery School. And it's been really cool because we've had a lot of parallels on the path. So I'm really excited to interview you, bro, and to have you share with us some about your journey, what's exciting for you, what's frustrating for you, besides Bill.
Bill's a whole other animal.
I'm just frustrated. Yeah. I'm just frustrated that we didn't hit record.
You got to make sure that he had his caffeine before.
Because it was so good. All the things you were talking about and all the people you were angry about before the. I'm just kidding.
Well, we can go back. I mean, I can rewind, but
no, I do think we'll want to go into more of one of the things you kind of talked about in the pre-thing is like some of the frustrations that we have with working with people and like the excitement. I'm kind of curious, obviously your dad or your dad was a chiropractor. Is that correct?
He still is. Yeah, he's practicing. He's been a chiropractor for about 40 years.
Did you ever practice with him?
I do now.
Mm-hmm. You do?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay. Mm-hmm. What's that like?
Well, from a healed state, from a healed state, practicing with my dad is good.
Cool.
When I first practiced with my dad, it was before the mystery school, and I didn't actually realize how weak I was. I guess I don't maybe like riddled with trauma and different triggers, and practicing with your family. Everyone comes in the practice and they're like, practicing with your family must be such a blessing. It's like, yeah, if you don't kill you kill each other.
Yeah.
You love people, but your family, like there's an interesting, well, we know this from different trainings and stuff like that, but there can be a very interesting dynamic when you have people that are so close to you, working so close to you, under the pressures of business, daily, weekly, monthly.
Yeah.
Whether it's financial pressure, whether it's the performance of the business, whether it's retention, whatever it is, whatever angle that the practice is struggling with or whatever, I kind of liken it to, if you're running a race, do you want to run a race, like with your best tennis shoes on and your best gear and by yourself, and you got your music hyped up and you're just focused on running that race yourself? Or do you want to take one of those gunny sacks and put it around your leg and then stuff your family member's leg into that sack and another family member's leg and then another person you don't even know is running a position and you just want to try and run together? Like, who's going to get there fastest?
Jeez. Yeah.
And I really feel like early on in practice, I was hitting those levels of frustration, not because I necessarily had a problem with my family, but I also had a problem with myself. You know what I mean? Like, I was the freaking problem.
Yeah.
And until I cleared out my problems, I didn't really see the growth in practice or enjoy practice like I do now. So that, you know, like for any chiropractor, like watching this podcast, I always feel, I see the posts on Facebook and different chiropractic groups. If you're anywhere close to burnout, or if you're broke in practice and afraid of like how you're going to pay your bills, or, you know, like whatever's going on, the ups and downs, like you really should consider the Mystery School Healings, the life activation, the initiation, and really like bringing the light in through yourself, healing yourself, the cord cutting series, and all the things that go along with that can be extremely helpful. It can save your life, literally and figuratively. Like, you know, it doesn't get talked about much in the chiropractic profession, but there was a young man who I didn't know personally, but he was known in one of the groups that I'm in, and he ended up committing suicide just like a year and a half ago. And he was this happy-go-lucky, you know, everybody in the group was like, wow, he's so much fun to hang out with. And, you know, his patients left these long testimonials about how he like went the extra mile and showed up on a Saturday. And, you know, like who knows, like the levels of desperation he was actually experiencing on the inside, the pressures of life and practice and whatever was happening, you know? And, you know, your strong connection to spirituality, to God, to the light is extremely important to navigate the ups and downs of practice. So I can definitely, I was a testament to that. I was really, really desperate when I found Dr. Sean and the life activation. I was really reaching out, trying to overcome some very dark feelings and mindsets and low energy, and all the answers that I was looking for were like, I wasn't getting anything. Like I'll never forget it. So me and Dr. Sean, we were in the same marketing group, and the leader of that marketing group said, if you want to win in business, just understand this concept. The person with the highest energy wins. And at the time, like I could, by lunch, like I didn't even work that long of hours, but by lunchtime I was like, I needed to sleep during lunch. And then after lunch, I felt like a zombie. And then like I was tired and I was wired, and I was like coffee to wake up and alcohol to go to bed. And like, I felt like I was burning the candle at both ends, and really I wasn't freaking doing anything, you know, like if you looked at my productivity, it was not there. And just complete overwhelm. And I posted in a few different chiropractic groups, like, well, I can't be the only one that experiences this, because how many chiropractors are in practice, and they're seeing more people than me, you know, like, there's got to be I know there's chiropractors seeing 500 a week, you know, 1,000 a week. Like everyone knows these, you know, big heavy hitters. How do they do it year after year? You know, like, got to be something going on here that I'm not seeing. And I got all the dumbest, you know, like I had 2 bachelors and a doctorate in natural health, holistic healing type field, you know, and like people are like, eat salad, you know, exercise, get a full night's sleep. And I'm like, what are you, like, you guys?
That's awesome.
Hey, we got diplomats out here, like really giving me the goods, right? I'm like, give me a freaking break.
Yeah, adjust your own atlas. Take the activator.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and Dr. Sean was the only one who was like, hey, you know, like I have this healing modality. Like you really need to have, it'll give you 10 times the energy. And I was like, I'm in. Like, this is the only person who like gave me something unique that I hadn't heard before, that wasn't common sense. And while I was in that healing, I felt so much energy come through that I hadn't felt in a long time. I didn't understand how it worked. You know, I didn't understand like exactly what it was doing, but I mean, my life exploded from that point. And of course, that's not the only thing someone needs to do, but
where'd you get life activated?
You know what's well, I feel like you guys did the same weekend. I really think that might have been the same weekend we were all.
Mine was in Mile High.
Yeah, no, we were, me and Dr. Sean were in a hotel, I think around Dublin, California. It was up by San Jose
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay.
for the
Oh
marketing
yeah.
seminar. Yeah.
Well,
So
I couldn't go to that one, I think, but I still sent Sean like 4 people to, I think, one of those times. I mean, it's funny, when I got into this work, I was like, who's going to want to do life activation with me? And then I realized, like, I sent like Sean like dozens of people over the time while he was doing it. And I was like, oh yeah. I was just curious because I got life activated in a hotel with Sean, which kind of sounds creepy, right?
Yeah. And you know what's funny, like Jason, I remember when we did that life activation, it was still like newer for me, and it like, and it's an awkward thing, like we're laughing about it, but it is a bit strange, right? It's strange in that it's something way outside the norm of what we're used to in terms of healing.
Yeah.
And so it's like we don't really have a lot of reference points, so it just makes it unknown for people. And I remember that I did that for you, and I was still kind of struggling with how to talk about it, how to explain it to people in a way that they might understand. And you were just like, what was that? Like, what do I do next? Like, you just loved it. Yeah, it was like, and I was like, yeah, well, here's a little bit more about it. Here's the next step. And you just ran with it, man. And yeah, bring in, like, we talk about practice, and practice is hard. People like, if you don't run a practice, one of the things that you may not be aware of is that we go to like chiropractic school in our case, and you go there and you spent years training how to be a doctor. So all the training is being how to be a doctor. There's very little about how to actually run a business. So we were thrown out there in a sense as like, 26, 27-year-old. I think I was 26 when I graduated. Had a ton of debt, had zero business experience, no background, marketing or business training really. And like, you understood the clinical stuff to an extent, as much as you can getting started in practice. But you don't understand the stresses of running a business, how to manage staff, how to do marketing, how to build out websites and do tax things and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So we had to figure that out on the fly, and it can be really, really stressful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, you just don't know what you don't know, and you run into this frustration. So, you find something as powerful as a life activation, and the zillion other healings I've had and courses I've taken in the mystery school at this point for the last like 7 years or so. And then you run into patients where because you've dealt with that problem now successfully, you can intelligently speak on how someone would need something like a life activation, initiation, so on and so forth. And then you tell them about it, and it's like, they just look at you really strange. Well, what is that? Well, do you have paperwork on that? And they go into this analytical side of their brain that then can, keep them from experiencing what they need to in order to progress through different challenges and problems and traumas and, all this kind of stuff. And so it becomes frustrating at times. You have all this, not only do you have your classical training, now how much training do you have in the mystery school? Now how much training, like I have training in nutrition, how much training have I had in nutrition, and so on and so forth. And you go into the public and you explain it in as much lay terms as you can and, give people the right direction. But the resistance is really an interesting thing to deal with.
Yeah. And the resistance, like I think a certain amount of it comes from like just in the realms of healing in general, is you really get to see how much people are living in the mind, like how over analytical the mind is, how much the mind is just ruling their everyday life. And I was that way before the mystery school big time. I didn't realize it till maybe a few years of doing this work. But one thing that it really helped free me from was just living in my mind all the time. It was like all of a sudden I was able to, not all of a sudden, it took work and time and a process, but to start really living more from the heart and the soul and the spirit in a way where the mind is more of an afterthought. For me, it's like the mind is, I think of the mind being like a program that you open up in the computer. Like if you want to open up Paint, it's like there's a certain time you need to do that and think logically. But a lot of the time, I don't actually open up that program. It's much more like intuitive, living with spirit, living with the heart, letting that guide. And we're used to doing that now because it is to do the higher level energy work, you have to do it from that place of heart and spirit. It just doesn't work or flow otherwise. But as you get used to doing that more, you realize how much people aren't living in that space. Like how much people, their hearts are just totally closed down. They're ruled by their mind all the time. And it's just like, it's this place of mega suffering. I was there for a long time. I think we all were.
Yeah. Well, and with chiropractic, maybe you see this is a lot of times that is such a physical shift in somebody's being. You know, it's like it literally like rocks their world, opens them up to potentials. You know, I don't look at it as there's sometimes people are just so in their mind because they're so stuck in pain in their way. And some people are looking for a way out, and some people, the way out, once they start moving out, they don't want to go there. Right. You know, you see like, oh, I am getting well. Oh, that means I have to face all of these things. But, you know, I found that one of the great things about doing both of these, entities together is the fact that a physical adjustment definitely opens people up. You know, people look very different after they receive their first adjustment, right? Kind of like the same way when they receive their first life activation. And, you know, as you've grown in this work, I know you've kind of intertwined them both together. And, you know, what's that been like in your practice, kind of incorporating the healing work along with the chiropractic and also the nutrition that sounds like you're running as well?
Well, you know, like everything that I do really stems from chiropractic philosophy class back at Parker. You know, our philosophy teacher taught us about the 3 causes of subluxation.
Yeah.
Subluxation being a minor dislocation of a joint causing nerve interference or improper nerve function. You know, but what can be the causes of subluxation? And structural subluxation was just one cause.
Yeah.
Chemicals in the body, whether it's toxicity or lack of proper nutrition, creating like a malnutrition situation in the body, can cause subluxation. And energy, you know, like they called it thoughts, you know, like, but basically like emotional trauma can cause subluxation as well. And, you know, like that concept stuck with me. And, you know, at Parker, we learned like 9 different techniques. I got out, I learned a couple more techniques. I mean, I have like so many ways to adjust the body and check for what's wrong, where the problem's coming from, all this kind of stuff. The next natural step was to get into nutrition and figure out how to test the nervous system for dysfunction nutritionally. So nutrition response testing was the path that I got kind of pulled into and directed to. And that's been an amazing help to identifying like visceral dysfunction that's triggering subluxation in the body. And then, you know, from my own suffering, you know, Dr. Sean led me to the mystery school. And when you add, I have packaged things all together and for people where they have a package of energy healings, they have like 6 months of nutrition, they have a year of chiropractic. And when you package those things together, you get like pure miracles. Like you really get the full package. What chiropractors wish they could deliver with just an adjustment, and sometimes they do.
Yeah.
They can actually deliver on even more consistently. When I first started practicing was just adjusting. If someone with rheumatoid arthritis came in my office and got adjusted, they would feel better. You know, they would feel better, but they wouldn't get full resolution of their problem because there's a biochemical issue. And as you dig deeper from, you know, my experience with energy healings, there's actually an energetic component as well. And so, you know, how frustrating is it to give someone your best chiropractic adjustment over and over and over and over? And by their 3rd re-exam after 36 visits or something, you know, like they're still experiencing pain, you know, and problems, where when you couple that with anti-inflammatory supplements that downregulate autoimmunity, and then you couple it with energy healing protocols that help disconnect negative energy, blocking the vital life force in the body. I mean, this man was like 68 years old. He was basically crippled in bed, rheumatoid arthritis. He crawled in my office. His knee pain was so bad because the rheumatoid arthritis was really taking his knees out. He was depressed. He quit. He was retired, so technically he didn't have to work. But he was a bus driver, and he really couldn't physically handle working. Like the sitting and the pumping of the brakes and the clutch or whatever was like really hurting him. And he was one of those people that he's like, just tell me what I need to do and I'm going to do it. Because I heard you know what you're talking about. So I'm going to trust that you do, you know? And when you give a doctor the benefit of the doubt to give you the best of what he has, like, watch out. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to rock this dude. So 6 months later, so his goal was to ride a motorcycle across the country.
That's awesome.
And he was afraid that he couldn't do it because, I mean, he couldn't even walk when I met him with the knee pain. And 6 months later, he rode a motorcycle from California to the Rocky Mountains and back.
Wow.
Pain-free.
Amazing.
No pain in his knees. Like, that's the power of what we have going on. Like, I've never seen that before. And then what you would run into is just consistency issues.
Yeah.
Because when you get someone feeling good, they think they're just healed and they're just going to always feel good and they get inconsistent with certain things, you know. But like he was, I mean, and he'll tell you, like, for the first 3 months, he still had knee pain and he was just doing the programming, getting the healings and taking the supplements, and we were refining everything and going through his diet and his environment and all this kind of stuff. And like, for someone like that, it's pretty powerful. You know what I mean? Like it's a good deal. So, if you can get someone to do what you need them to do, when you mix all three modalities, you're going to win.
I love that.
That's awesome.
I haven't done a lot with nutritional response testing, but my medical doctor does. Ooh. So it's something that like I send people to him, and then he's helped me with so many different things. Like so many kind of weird health issues that have popped up over the years. He was, the first person I went to and helped me out of many different issues. Yeah, I really enjoy that.
The need for nutrition is inescapable.
Yeah.
It really is. Like, people just don't really get how toxic our environment really is.
Yeah.
Our foods are so addictive with the salts and the sugars and the artificial this and that, like you're being pulled in all these different directions to really consume poison. Like, and it's really interesting. Like, you wouldn't feed your dog chocolate.
Yeah.
Because it'll hurt the dog.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's hurting you, you'll tell me, Doc, I can't give up my chocolate. I love to eat chocolate every 2 o'clock every afternoon. I got to have my chocolate,
Yeah.
And it's like, that's what we're dealing with. The diet sodas,
Yeah.
You want to see someone like really have a problem, try and take them off, like 5 diet sodas a day, and that type of thing. And it's like, because it's come to the point that it's killing you. So it's all fun and games, apparently, when your body can withstand the pressures of these chemicals, but it's not when it's collapsing and you get the cancer diagnosis, or you get the autoimmune diagnosis, or you get the diabetes and all this kind of stuff. And then you're kind of in a fight for your life.
Yeah.
In many respects. So,
well, I think it's a good understanding too, is one of the things that people aren't really aware of is, let's just say the external influences or the amount of stress that they're under. For example, one thing. I remember reading a book years ago, but it stuck with me. It was by this guy Alvin Toffler, who is a famous futurist, and so he looked at statistical trends to see how things were projecting into the future. And a very smart guy. And one of the things he talked about was how much stress people are under, and how basically the equivalent of the amount of stress that we're under today is the equivalent to what our great grandparents faced in their entire lifetime. Essentially, maybe going back one further generation, but the amount of stress was increasing because there's so many things, like technology is speeding up. There's so many things happening. So many different factors. Like the population circles get bigger. You go back 100 years, like maybe you interacted with 50 people on a regular basis. Like we weren't interacting with hundreds or thousands in social media, and all the changes happening. It puts a lot of stress on people. And then all the additives in our food and like all these different things that are happening, like these stresses have never really existed before in human history. So we're combining them all at once. And then, people are maxed out, but they don't realize that because they've been maxed out for so long that it's just how they live. So, we look at them on the table and their body's all tense and twisted and these things. It's like, you've been in this state of extreme stress for a long period of time. And these issues have never really been dealt with, as far as the structural issues. Typically, the nutrition largely hasn't been dealt with. And the energy issues are almost never dealt with.
No, I quote that guy all the time. I didn't know it was him, but I read just that quote. Basically, we take the equivalent of 50 years worth of stress in 1 year. And it's evident in the human genome. When you read books that are like that are more nutrition based, there's a book called Pottinger's Cats, where they genetically follow the DNA of a parent cat through the generations of its babies. And they feed it, like basically the standard American diet equivalent for cats. And what they found is that the babies started getting sicker. And that's what's happening to the American public. And it's evident through, when we look at the vaccine schedule, where someone has like over 68 vaccinations if they stay on schedule in their first 12 months of life, or that type of thing. Like, there's a certain level of chemical load, nutritionally, medicinally, stress levels, definitely, that we're getting. We have the most information, available at our fingertips at all times. We have the highest level of technology advances. I literally saw something about like a micro robot is going to start chasing down cancer cells in people's body and killing it. We have like all this space age technology, and people are getting sicker and sicker. Less, if any, it was crazy. Less access to just standard healthcare. In California alone, like 6.6 million people don't qualify for Medi-Cal, which is like the lowest insurance available to people, and can't afford regular health insurance. And in this day and age, to understand that that's what's happening, as well as how many kids are now living with their parents, not just because they need to go to college and they don't want to work, but like due to health issues. Like due to people on the autistic spectrum. Where 2 and 3 boys, I think it's either between 1 and 3 or 2 and 3 male children are on the spectrum of some kind or another. And to hear stories of like, because I used to think it was all vaccine related, which it might have a part to play, but stories of kids coming onto the spectrum even post birth with more holistic health styles, even it's like, oh, like there are deeper causes to these problems.
Totally.
And it was interesting to realize these things and start having conversations with my patients of like, we eat for pleasure, but you need to eat to protect your DNA. You know what I mean? Like, I get that you love to go to church, but you need to maximize, the energetic efficiency of your DNA. You need a DNA activation. Like when you start talking from a genome perspective, like when 100 years ago, they didn't have the MTHFR gene problem. They didn't have a breast cancer gene problem. They didn't have autism. They didn't have. So then what? Like things don't just happen just cause randomly, you know, like
right.
There are causes for everything. Like we can literally pick apart what gene causes breast cancer, but we can't figure out the causes to autism. You know, like I don't get it. I don't really get like why there's such a hole in effective treatment and effective levels of personal responsibility when it comes to your health too.
Well, I think that it comes back to something that frustrated me for a long time. I don't know if it frustrates me so much anymore, but we've talked about it on this podcast before, and it's how so often people want their problems to be simple, and they're really complex. So it's like we're talking about, you know, there's the nutritional aspect, interacting with the structure, interacting with the nervous system, and then there's an energetic association as well. And so often are people like, I want to do just one thing and I want it to cost no money and take no time, and then I want to be fixed forever. Well, I simply continue living the exact same way and thinking the exact same way and making no changes other than you doing this thing to me one time. And that is like, it sounds silly to say that, but a lot of people do, like, that's literally what they want and what they're expecting. So it's like we have to address that with people, just let them realize they're complex beings. And I remember one time I was in class. I was in a class with Cyber Miss Dave, and he was talking to us, and somebody asked this question. It was a complex question. They wanted a really simple answer. He's like, "You guys have no idea how complex you are. You're created in the image of God. You are massively complex beings. It's not always so simple."
Yeah.
You know, so like with our health, it's very much like that. Like it's, you know, if you've been operating in a certain way where you're injuring tissues over and over and over, it might take time to fix. And that was something that I don't know if I'm better at communicating it now, or if maybe I don't know where the shift has happened, but like I feel like getting through better to people with it.
Well, it's also like because there's so many things that influence health, right? Like, and you can see this with chiropractors or just people who, whatever their niche is, it's like when the only tool you have is a hammer concept, like everything looks like a nail. So people get really passionate about their cure is the solution to this cause. And it's like, we also need to be able to hold that like grace in the fact that like there is so much complexity that you can improve by making good solutions, but you can also go over the top where you've just tried to control everything, right? Every aspect of no toxins to no. And I think that's where like I see, maybe Jason, you can comment on this, where the energy work helps dissolve some of that charge that's associated and surrounding like trying to be perfect and being healthy, because that will just ultimately lead to somebody being neurotic and most oftentimes less healthy, you know?
Well, and we see this with nutrition response testing, which was such an eye opener. You know, like one of the things that they teach you is how to dose someone out, you know, like how not just find the supplements that they need, but give them the exact, like, do they need half a pill a day? Do they need 6 pills a day? Do they need 12 pills a day? What is the dose that would be the most effective dose for this person? And what you find out is that even if you take the healthiest supplement and you apply it to a person, but you're just a half a pill or a pill over, that solution becomes a problem. That is not the solution past a certain dose. Okay. Yeah. So when you talk about, and this is what people don't get with this, they don't understand. Like I talked to I don't know how many wives I have in my practice. They're going, I just wish my husband would come in here because he's constantly complaining of back pain, and his stomach is he's got so much stomach gas he can barely walk, you know, like all this kind of stuff.
You don't tell them it's their fault, do you, Jason?
And it's like they want to order some super herb off the internet and take it for 3 days and then never have to take it again and have all their problems solved. They don't understand that without scientifically approaching the problem, not only do they not know it's the right solution, but they don't even know if their body will respond to the dosage recommended.
Yeah.
And they're missing several factors. So with the testing, we actually test for imbalances in the nervous system called blocking and switching, which blocking is like doing the right thing but not getting any results. So it's like if you adjusted someone and you gave them the best adjustment, they have neck pain and that's the vertebrae that's stuck in their neck, and you move it back into place and you know they should at least feel 30% better afterwards, but they feel as bad, if not worse. That would be like an example of blocking, like where they don't feel like anything happened, basically. Switching is where the reverse happens. So like, let's say you adjusted someone and they felt worse. That could be a sign of actually switching. So if they're blocked or switched neurologically from a nutritional perspective, and even if they're taking the right supplement in the right dose, they're not going to experience what they want to experience. So they're either not going to get results or they're going to feel worse. And so just that concept alone that people are missing, it's amazing to me that people can even order stuff off the internet and get any kind of good result because the human is so complex from a nutritional perspective. Then you have 5 stressors that affect the body in ways that if they're not addressed first, their body can be close to the solution as well. And that spans all the chemicals in your environment, all the different foods in your environment. It spans scar tissue, immune imbalances, metal toxicities, all these things. So something as simple as a mercury amalgam filling in someone's mouth can be blocking them from receiving healing to an organ, to where until they chelate that metal successfully, get it removed, get porcelain put in, all that, so on and so forth, or a composite of some kind, like they're not going to experience the healing that they want. And, that level of frustration then leads to long-term chronic health issues never getting better that have really, are they fun solutions? Not always, but they have solutions that are fairly simple and applicable and not really that expensive when it comes to, pricing out the need for shots and surgeries and different monthly medications and all that kind of stuff. So
I love it. What a holistic approach. And it's something that it's one of those things people desperately need and they don't know that they need because they don't even know these things exist to a large extent.
Yeah, it was amazing. To me, it's common sense. So as a second generation chiropractor, I got adjusted since I was 2 years old. So when someone comes into my office and they're literally on the table and they're shaking and they're scared to get adjusted because they heard that they might die or something, I really don't understand that level of fear. As a 2-year-old, when my dad told me to get on the table because I needed to get adjusted, I just laid down and let him do his thing. And I didn't even think 2 things about it. So I was so desensitized from that. And when I found nutrition, my stomach was a mess. So when I first got tested by an advanced practitioner and I got put on a program, and within like 2 days, my energy shot up. My stomach felt so much better. I was like, I got to bring this to my patients, from an energy perspective, the life activation and all these wonderful things, like amazing results. But like just the other day to talk to a lady that was like scared to get adjusted, just to get adjusted. I'm like, man, these girls need to move, girl. Like, like sweating on the table, like beans.
I'm convinced that's the number one thing that keeps people from going to the office is actually the fear of being adjusted. Like more and more and more, you realize like it is a real barrier for people out there. Because the optics of it are kind of frightening. I don't think they are at this point because we went to chiropractic school. We've seen adjustments, thousands upon thousand. And you see everyone make it. right? You know, everyone makes
except for that one
right?
guy. Just kidding.
Except for that one guy back, Jason's classmate. You guys had to take him out to the desert in Texas.
I used to joke around with people and tell them the basement's full of bodies already. I don't have any room for theirs.
Yeah. I always make the joke, like when I'm doing an exam, I go, I promise this won't leave you in worse shape than I found you, and I haven't lost anyone yet. And they always laugh, but everyone's nervous.
Yeah, I like to make the joke that I just learned how to do this on YouTube.
Yeah. Like she's like, I heard you could die from this. Or like I had another lady that was like, yeah, my friends always when I tell my friends that I'm going to the chiropractor, they tell me, aren't you afraid to die? And I'm like, honey, if I killed people,
aren't you afraid to die?
You couldn't find, there's like probably 300 chiropractors in my city. Like you couldn't find a chiropractor anywhere. There's no way they would allow someone to just go in and crack someone's neck and have them die, and they, like I go through, we learned this explanation in school about, like you bring your hand, like your fist close to the wall and like, okay, try and hit the wall. Now put your fist like on the wall and try and push as hard as you can. Like you can't break through the wall with your fist already touching the wall. And it's like that, like when you carefully adjust someone, you're taking them to tension. You're doing a very controlled adjustment. I already know it's kind of scary. So if I can get you to relax and chuckle and just kind of like breathe through it, like it's a very gentle kind of peaceful experience. Like it's not, we already know the reputation that we have. So, like we're not going in like winding up and trying to hurt somebody. Like, so I don't know.
I do knee, chest, upper cervical. So people like think I'm really kind and sweet. And then all of a sudden it's like, wham.
Pow. Yeah. Well, there's nothing like knee chest on your T12 to like really get you singing high notes.
He seemed so nice. He seemed so nice.
So Jason, what was the biggest thing that you saw change when we did life activation? Like what was your process like from when we started that?
Well, basically, I was struggling to grow my practice at the time, and it's the coolest story because I felt like I was blocking myself energetically. Is essentially what it was like I was shown this, and then I found you, and you did the things, and I felt like tingling down the back of my spine, kind of through the back of my head and everything, and I just went through like an instant transformation. So. That is the power, like the number one secret of the energy healing that the Mystery School has to offer is that people struggle for years to change their circumstances from the outside in. It's like, what can I do on the outside? On the outside, I can work more hours. So they end up working, like 90 hours a week, or I can, like get this skill. So I'm going to go to school and pay all this money to get this skill. And like, I'm going to put in years of just like this blood, sweat, and tears because somehow I'll then deserve good things in my life. And the secret of the Mystery School is that when you experience the healings, you change from the inside out. So your outside changes like serendipitously.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to live in the same environment changing yourself from the inside out because you command and attract a whole new level of existence with the Mystery School healings. Yeah. So I went from about a practice that I considered about a third of the way full, maybe, on its best week, to maxing out my chiropractic practice in one location, starting another chiropractic practice in a second location. I went from working 3 days a week to working like 6 days a week in the offices. Just as a solo practitioner. So I was Monday, Wednesday, Friday at one location. I was Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday at another location. And eventually, after about 2 years, I had worked so hard for so long that I had to like choose a location and just like build out like a regular schedule. And I just remember working my tail off to hit these goals. And I would go see my practitioner here and, shout out to Aaron Wallace, over 20 years in the mystery school that Dr. Sean referred me to. She's in Pleasant Hill, California. And so she's up north of me about 2.5 hours. And I would go see her, like every 6 weeks or so for a healing. So I didn't stop with the life activation. I got cord cuttings. I got the Isis healing. I got initiation. Now to this point, I can't even really name them all. So many different healings and experiences. And because I became such a higher, vibrating person, and I helped myself through the commitment to getting these healings done, I was able to grow by like 400 or 500% from where I was. I think my highest week was like 230 or something like that, where I saw, over 200 people for chiropractic care in 1 week. And for me, that was just unheard of. Like I was lucky to hit 70 or 80 visits in a week, in a good week, and so it really opened me up to reach the highest level of success that I could. And of course, a big, thing that I attribute that to was Kabbalah as well. My first universal Kabbalah was really transformational. So, that's an offering that's unique to the school that, everybody watching this podcast ever should really get in a universal Kabbalah mystery school. That's a kick-ass 10 months right there. But it was the first time that I really focused on something that was extremely powerful in the field of self-improvement that wasn't packaged like the Tony Robbins or whatever, that people go to and pay these buku freaking bucks to go walk on coals and jump up and down for too long and all this kind of stuff. Like you walk into this really calm sanctuary and and you do these very subtle energy healings that you kind of wonder what happened, but you leave feeling good. So you're like, okay, I'll go with it, and I just went off my experience, even though it was very uncomfortable in some aspects. It was outside of my norm of what I was used to. I knew I needed something outside of the norm.
Yeah.
I needed to think outside the box. I needed to be open to new experiences, it's who you have to become to be the person that accomplishes the goal as much as what the goal is and what the little steps are in between. So I was really focused on becoming that person and maintaining that high level of vibration. It worked out really, really well.
That's so amazing. Dr. Jason, I remember one day, I was having a day and I was like, life was hard. And I was like, I'm tired of, working so hard. And is what I'm doing really making a difference? And I just I prayed and I was like, God, just show me the ways that I'm helping people. Help me to see it again. And you popped up on my Facebook the next day, and it was you with all these people, this big community that you've built, and people are just helping tons of people. And I was like, okay, that feels good.
Well, that's the ripple effect. And when
I don't feel that same thing when I see Jason, I don't feel that same thing.
But those, in all seriousness, it's life is with healing, with chiropractic, with these aspects of being human. There you have good days and you have bad days. Everybody does, right? And it's so when we have a bad day, we could just kind of forget. And you have a good day, everything feels great. But it's just because you're having a good day doesn't mean that you don't keep up the practices, and just because you have a bad day doesn't mean that you give up the practices that got you this far. But when we're in pain or we're suffering, or somebody's been trying everything to get better and they're not getting better, you just need to keep doing these practices to uplift you more.
Well, you don't really understand what you're getting into as a chiropractor. Think about what we do. We go to work every day. We're dealing with people that are in really low energy fields. They're sick. They're in constant pain. They're basically in agony. They're bringing, if your guys' practice is anything like mine, the divorces and the trauma, the abuses, the like sexual abuse and all this kind of stuff people live through that sometimes comes out in their consultation, and like what's affecting them, the problem with their children that's like really like keeping them up late at night. And like a lot of times people that are in physical pain of some kind or another, like they're in emotional and mental driven pain, they're in chemical pain, they're stuck in very low energy vortexes, and then you're laying hands on them all day.
Yeah.
All day you're in their energy field. Not only that, you've got a receptionist or front desk assistant, CAs, therapy assistants, you know, calling in sick, massage therapists, you know, like you got all these people around you that are supposed to be your support staff, your insurance biller or whatever. And they're coming in with their problems. They're not feeling good. They're going home early. They got a migraine. They need a vacation. They need a raise. They, you know, like, so you got all, like, you surrounded yourself in the most negative, like, I mean, other than maybe an insane asylum, like one of the most negative things you can do.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
And they're looking at you with their, like, help me. I know you're smart. Help me. I know you have this training. Help me. You know, like, and you got to put it all on your back every single day. You know, and that can really take its toll. That can really take its toll. So.
And that's what I'm saying, and that's like that's the world we're living in, right? And so it's like whether we have these things, right, that are these challenges, but you know, so does a dentist, so does a school teacher, so does like everybody that we're interacting with on a daily basis. For the most part, you know, people go through some stuff, and it is the world. Like if you want to really live a great life, you need to be able to rise above the heaviness of the world to an extent. And that was something I didn't understand how to do on my own. I would try and I'd fight for it, and I'd read books and try to think positive and all these things. And I read hundreds of books and went to all these personal development seminars, but I didn't learn how to rise above the negativity of the world consistently. Like I'd have these peak moments where my head broke through to the clouds, and it's like, this is great. And then I'd be back. But the Mission School, like, it really gave me these tools to help. One, to maintain those consistently higher and higher states and progression where you just keep going up. There's no limit to it. But then two, also like tools to better manage the environment. So now it's like I can help people in all sorts of situations without a lot of strain most times. You know, people can be in a really tough spot, and I can pick them up pretty fast. But it took a long time to be able to do that.
Yeah, there's deeper levels of protection. Where you can manage, I don't know, negative energy in your environment, you know, in ways that are extremely effective. And, you know, it's sad. I was just thinking about it when you were talking that a lot of times for most chiropractors who have been in practice for any, you know, length of time, their happiest moments are when they're on vacation. And most of them don't even take one.
It's a really good point. Yeah.
You know, like, but you can actually bring a high level of joy, a high level of happiness, a high level of balance, calmness, peace, you know, into your practice when you do practice the different tools that the Mystery School teaches. And that is probably the golden ticket right there for a lot of people. Like, you can climb your way out of the negative mind states, or being, you know, like one of those empathetic, compassionate people that just takes on everybody else's problems and gets bogged down. You don't have to walk around with weights on your feet and, you know, like such a heavy heart, a heavy brain, you know, with all the problems of the world. Like you can really rise above it and use the different tools to kind of shed those layers and regain a higher version of yourself. So it's really powerful. Yeah.
It's 100%. It's the X factor in the whole equation. Like if you work with people in their space and you work with people's problems and serve them, like I just can't imagine not having these tools. Like I know that even the first week when I got back from Empower Thyself and had tools for myself, like immediately I wasn't taking people's stuff on. I wasn't taking my stuff with me. Yeah. You know, I wasn't taking my own baggage along, let alone other people's. And like you said, I can see how you just get to a point in practice that you would just like want to run for a vacation, and you just lose that connection to that. It sounds like all of us kind of got into chiropractic for, which many people do. Many people get into all of the service professions for the right reasons to serve people. Yeah. And then they just pack on a cloud of negativity because they've absorbed all the things that everyone brings them. And then they forget that they can rise above it, and not through the mind, right? Not through the mind. Like an adjustment's not through the mind. You know, right. We don't help people through that. So it's like the whole practice of what we do is about taking people out of the mind and getting them maybe into their body, or maybe into their energy to help shift and change. And, you know, I just know that like what you're talking about is, it's really great to get your perspective here, because all the time I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel the exact same way. But it's like repeatable, right? That's like science. Yeah. Sean had that experience. You had that experience. I've had that experience. And it keeps happening where chiropractors utilize these tools, and then they're like, wow, practice seems more fun, joyful, and ease. There's an ease to it.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. It's important that you, you know, like we take a bath every day, or at least everyone but Bill Moss does, right? And
I usually take showers. You know, showers seems to be my thing. Sometimes the bath.
Bill uses the garden hose outside.
So yeah, most of us clean ourselves, but you know, it's one of those things that energetic cleansing was never really presented.
Yeah.
And it's not really in people's awareness to begin with. The fact that I need to cleanse my energy body, optimize the function of my energy body. I mean, which extends out 500 feet in all directions, right? I have this huge energy body I can't see, most people are not even aware of. And it's picking up, you know, problem debris, like negative things. And to be able to cleanse that energetic body really gives you like a level up that's unlike anything that you can do synthetically. You know, like there's people living on energy drinks, there's people living on sugar, there's people, all these stimulants that, you know, that they can get in their body because they're trying to artificially recreate something that they could have a lot more holistically and naturally. The level of, like, we took this one lady who was extremely intelligent young lady. She came in, needed some help. She did all of our programs, and she wasn't necessarily on like a lot of stimulants, but she would wake up in the morning and have coffee. By the end of her energy healing series, she's like, I can't wait to get up in the morning. Like, she was waking up at like 4 a.m, not needing coffee.
Wow.
You know, like, because she's just so amped up, like she was vibrating on such a high level. So it's one of those things, like, if you want sustainability, it can't be artificially done, because there's negative side effects with really pumping your body full of these artificial things to try and force it to do something. It's way more effective to take that holistic route and really figure out what the core causes are to begin with, and remove those, and really use the tools that you're given through the mystery school, through nutrition, you know, of course, getting adjusted, super important, to really maximize what you were naturally given. And then you don't have to worry about, you know, buying cases of Red Bull or whatever to try and like force yourself through another day. I had a buddy that did that for years, and, you know, he was diagnosed with like early Parkinson's because of how poorly he took care of himself. You know, it's like he's in his late 30s, like pretty much disabled now. It's like, and to experience like these things happening to people that are completely avoidable. Like, really believe that there's a lot of stuff going on that's completely unnecessary. Like, you don't have to do that to yourself. You know, like, there are better ways to deal with it. with life and stress and all those kind of things. And when you bring in the energy, it's funny because chiropractic is well enough known that you can talk about chiropractic and people pretty much get it. They've seen a YouTube video, they know someone who's popped a bone or two, or maybe they have their wife walking their back or whatever. And so like when you explain the concept of chiropractic, like it's not that foreign to people of like what you're doing and why. When you talk about nutrition, people are addicted to their food. So you're basically dealing with like someone who knows they should do something better for themselves, but doesn't really, have the desire to change. Like they're emotionally attached to it or physically attached to it in some way, into the thing that's really hurting them. And then energy work, you try and explain it to people, and they don't necessarily get it. And the way that things are applied in my practice, like we do chiropractic, and then a lot of times we'll, like if the person needs it, we'll refer them into nutrition. And then, as they get to know us a little bit better and they bring things will come up in conversation that will lead to like an energy healing type conversation. And I always thought like the application is backwards. People should start with the energy work. Like if I had it my way, they would come in and probably do, 5 healings and an initiation, weekend and all this kind of stuff, and jumpstart the vitality in their spirit, and then get evaluated for the other 2. But the lack of understanding of what is happening and why, if I start out with, hey, you really need this life activation, this is what it does, this is how it works, this is what you'd experience, they don't get like the connection. You know what I mean? Like a lot of times there's a lot of confusion or maybe overanalyzing or whatever that keeps them from moving forward with that modality, even though it would be like an extreme help, and it would actually help them hold their adjustments. It would help their body utilize the nutrition properly and all that kind of great stuff. Like it would be great if things were reversed. But it's so foreign to people that you have like a barrier of understanding to overcome.
Yeah. We're not there yet.
Yeah.
We're getting there more though. Like, I mean, I remember like what got me into the energy piece was I saw my friend, Dr. Nick, he was like glowing, Dr. Nick Panzarella. And then, that got me into it. I started exploring it, and then you guys both got into it. And now there's all these other people that you've shared it with. And so like it does grow pretty rapidly from the results.
Yeah.
But I think 10 years from now, it'll be way bigger, but 20 years ago, 30 years ago, yoga wasn't even a thing.
Yeah.
Too. So it's like,
and even chiropractic 10, 15 years ago, people would come in and be like, oh, or you'd talk to people on the show. I don't believe in, like, it's not, you can't say that and be like cool anymore. Like, that's not cool. Like everyone knows somebody who's helped. I think we're even in the next phase where it's like, if you went to a chiropractor and you didn't like them or their work, you actually are more likely now to go seek somebody that might be right for you. Where back in the day, we'd say things like, once you go and the chiropractor ruins it, they'll swear off chiropractic forever. But like people don't do that anymore. They like do make a different choice and find a new person. So I think you're right in the sense that, where people are seeing because of, we're so sensitive. Like Jason you started the conversation with, there's so many ways that kind of make people sick, right? Like from like the toxins to the environment. But in addition to that, we're so sensitive, right? So we're like so sensitive. And I think that sensitivity and that awareness is starting to come through more, that it's like, well, I'm sensitive beyond just the obvious physical things that people have done in health. So what else could I do that will impact my life? And I feel like that's starting to kind of come out of the cocoon, that type of awareness, where I hope that we start to see that more. And maybe when we have Jason on again, that will be more of like the norm, because we'll do it again. You were all right today.
Oh, that's just my warm up.
Yeah,
I know the really cool stuff.
Yeah.
I'm holding back for my round 2. You know,
We'll
look forward to it.
Impress us enough to bring you back. You've done it, Jason. You've done it. We've never said that to another guest, I don't think. But you did.
Dr. Jason, before we wrap up, could you just share maybe your office, where you're from, in case anybody wants to connect with you?
Yeah, I'm in Clovis, California. It's the Central Valley. We call it the armpit. It's kind of center north. So I'm a few hours north of LA and a few hours south of San Jose. And our practice, we share space with Bullard Chiropractic in Clovis. So you can just Google us, Bullard Chiropractic. We do have an Instagram and a Facebook, and we're kind of all over the place. So you can definitely track us down. If you want to just give us a call directly, our phone number is 559-545-1822. But you could totally just, friend me on Facebook, message me, friend me on Instagram, message me directly, and we can get you hooked up and help you out in any way that you desire. If you want to explore some of these healing opportunities, they're extremely powerful, and they definitely help move you forward on a lot of different levels. So it's really fun.
Thank you so much, Jason. Dr. Jason.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for being here, and we look forward to having you again. And if you haven't done so, subscribe, rate, review our show. It helps us. And thanks again for another great episode.
And we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
We're gonna have to cut this because my mouse died.
Oh no! What's the button to end it?
It says end recording, but I can't do it.
So. Oh, I can do it.
Can you do it?